Hello and welcome to Southeastern 14's coverage of SEC basketball. Gentlemen, it is here and we are here for it. Had a lot of fun watching games last night. We're going to touch on every one of them quickly today. Our show is presented by BetOnline. The last of major pro sports leagues is off and rolling. College basketball here as well. BetOnline remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL, all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today. Use our promo code BELIEVE, that is BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Well, the game started yesterday in Las Vegas. The SEC went 10-1. The one would be the one that I was probably most interested in watching. That was Georgia and Oregon. Georgia made a late charge, came up short in that one. Blake, let's start by unpacking Georgia and Oregon here. I thought that the post play on the other side was kind of a difference here.
Well, as I told Max, Max was excited about betting the Georgia Bulldogs. The plus, I don't know what it wound up getting to, 6.5, something like that. They made the late push, and I thought, Max, hey, it's game one of betting. You know how this works. New season, and bad situation there. Oregon wins by 11. In all seriousness, I put the numbers out on Twitter. Just think about this. If you just look at the numbers and you're like, all right, are they going to win this game? 33.8% from the floor, 33% from three, 56.7% from the free throw line, 16 turnovers, and get out rebounded by 21. Who are you beating? You're not beating a lot of teams with those numbers. And you're definitely not beating, a top 4 or 5 Pac-12 team with those numbers. And yet they still had a chance, right? They're only down 8 with a minute to go or whatever. They made that push to get it to that point, which I don't know that I ever fully thought Georgia was going to, threaten to win the game. But, not the best start. But I will say this. There's a difference between this game and every other game we're going to talk about. And that is Georgia played the toughest opponent. And, in game one, sometimes this happens. Like it's in the transfer era, you've got a new roster. And you've got a lot of, other pieces you're kind of plugging into the mix. You're going to have some of this stuff kind of happen. So it was a tough game. I didn't think Georgia would win the game, period. So not surprised they lost. But, yeah, there's definitely some room for improvement there, Max.
Banned. Georgia is banned for me.
Banned from the betting list.
No, I'm just making light of it. Out rebounded by 21 is just, and that's what the reason why it's so concerning is that's what I really liked about this team was the size, the added just physicality with Deloach, with Melendez being an oversized guard, and they just got bullied. Chiwa did not play as good as I thought he was gonna. I thought he was gonna give Dante a good fight there at the 5 position, and it was. 21 rebounds for Dante. It was just, oh my gosh. And even Biddle, behind him almost had a double with 13 and 9. So yeah, room for improvement down low. I liked what I saw out of Abdur Rahim. He was like the lone spark. But other than that, you got to play Justin Hill at all times because the spacing. If you have Deloach, Melendez, and Chiwa in there, all 3 can't really shoot. So, got some spacing issues, some rebounding issues. Definitely not what I wanted to see first game.
Hey, Georgia did find itself a blue cane, though, and that's going to lend itself to endless jokes all year.
I love blue cane.
Yeah. I can see why. All right, next up. Let's see. I think next in order tip-off was Tennessee and Tennessee Tech. Look, I was the lone guy of us who did not pick the Vols to win the conference. I took Texas A&M, but my hesitation on that was Zakai Zeigler. There's 2 things that I hold against Tennessee. It's the health of Zeigler, and it's the offensive stagnation, which just seems to rise up every year against Tennessee in some key spot and get them eliminated from the postseason. But I'll tell you this, Dalton Knecht, that kid is legit. He had a good exhibition season. And I think the big thing, and maybe I need to watch a little bit, I felt like Zakai Zeigler looked close to full speed. Seeing him play in the opener was encouraging. So I think that if I had a do-over on that, I would flip those now. Max, let's start with you. What did you take away from this one?
Main takeaway for me is 7 different guys for Tennessee attempted at least 3 threes. So the green light was there. The offensive spacing was there. That's what I wanted to see. But one thing was only 9 minutes for Tobe Awaka. God, I know they were destroying the other team, but I mean, I really thought Awaka was going to almost be like a starting piece there, kind of, interchanging with Adu there. And Cade Phillips got more minutes. Awaka had 3 turnovers in only 9 minutes, so it just a little bit concerning there. And then Vescovi and Zeigler looked pretty rusty there. I mean, only, what were they, 2 for 10 combined? Only 5 points between the two. So I know both of them were coming off injury, or I think Vescovi was like a personal matter that he was away from the team. But just the ability to still put up the numbers they put up and win by the amount they put up, and have Zeigler and Vescovi only have 5 points, goes to show the depth of this team. That's what I think is my main takeaway. We haven't seen Vescovi and Zeigler put up those numbers and Tennessee look this good in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, Vescovi scores 2 points in 21 minutes. That's not going to happen very often.
Yeah.
And so I think I kind of put it on Twitter in the big thread I did, but like Dalton Knecht and Jordan Gainey are just going to make them much more consistent on offense. And I know it's Tennessee Tech, and you're not playing, Kentucky and Auburn or whatever, but like still, like I think they're going to make them much more consistent, especially with Josiah-Jordan James back. I mean, you guys know he's like one of my favorite players, probably in the SEC in recent memory,
He
just
looked
because
good.
I think he's just one of the more versatile. He might be the most versatile player, not just in the SEC, but like top 5 in the country, maybe. I mean, he can do anything. And he had 12 points, 7 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 assists, a block. Yeah. So, I mean, we said he was the difference. Getting him back on this roster was huge. And I was surprised by the Awaka thing. Max and I were talking about all summer, and you never know. It may just be one of those things. But I still think the depth's there. And, Tennessee looking good in game 1.
All right, next up, South Carolina beats USC Upstate 82-53. Not a lot of takeaways from this one. Maybe my biggest was Talon Cooper, who's been at Minnesota, and I think before that was at Morehead State, came in and had a little bit of a stat sheet stuffing game. He goes 15-7 with 3 assists and plays 23 minutes. They kind of played a lot of guys in this one. I don't know what to take away from this one, but Blake, I'll let you start.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to take away from this one. They shot it well from 3, 12 of 22. That trio, Cooper, Mack, Studi, 8 of 14 combined. So look, for a team that struggled in a lot of areas last year, you'll take that for game 1. And remember, Max and I talked about this going into it. Remember, they played Upstate last year, and they were down at halftime in that game. And obviously, the exhibition game, South Carolina didn't look great. And so I think to see this kind of performance, you'll definitely take this right off the bat. Got off to a good start. And yeah, I was a big Talon Cooper guy. I said that this summer when I did the video when he transferred, and yeah, I think he's gonna be really good for them. But still a lot to be determined with just one game in here. So
Yeah, my notes are just on par for what we had. Thought this team was better than the roster was last year. You saw that, some added spacing. BJ Mack goes for 3 threes. It's what you wanted to see out of South Carolina. I don't have much other than that. Looked decent.
All right, next up, we have got.
Oh boy.
Yeah, oh boy.
I know
indeed.
what's next.
The most disappointing game of the night. Ole Miss beats Alcorn State by 10. We don't think their 2 key transfers are going to get eligible, it would appear. Matt Murrell, who's been there since 2014, I think, leads them with 16 points. I thought I was not. I mean, and Alan Flanagan had a good game too. He gives them 15, but this was not what I was expecting here, guys.
Yeah, I've been high on Ole
Max,
Miss.
I'll let you go first.
I'll be high on Ole Miss. All right, and I'll say this is I had the under as my play of the day. I knew this was going to be a gross game with how Ole Miss is experimenting with who's going to bring the ball up. Brakefield goes 1 of 10 from the field with only 3 points. Murrell goes 1 of 8 from 3. You really can't have a worse shooting night if you're Ole Miss. Like, I can't imagine them looking worse offensively. So I'd say there's nowhere to go but up from here on the offensive side. On the defensive side of the ball, there's the rebounding is not what I thought it was going to be from the front court. Alan Flanagan looked great, 15 and 12, but Jamarian Sharp had, I think, 4 blocks and 2 steals, but he only had a few rebounds. And against SEC front courts, that's not gonna hold up. So my main takeaway was the offense just, it can't get any worse than this. We're starting at rock bottom. So I'm trying to look at the glass half full. TJ Caldwell looked good. But man, I wish they looked a little bit better.
Yeah. Offense, work in progress, I think is the best way to put it. 36.8% from the floor, 24% from 3, 48% from the free throw line. Like you said, Chris, Alan Flanagan played well, in the bits that I watched of that game. But still, right, 4 players combining for 61 or 69 points. And so they need more offense. And if I'm Ole Miss, I'm going to the NCAA with the biggest gift basket, maybe a little, a little fruit, maybe some grapes, little pepperoni slices.
Corn nuts.
I'm taking them everything I can find to try to get Brandon Murray eligible, because if they can add him to the mix, that'd be nice to have on this team right now. But we saw that. Look, it's game 1. Max kind of called this. He said, look, the under is your play here if you're doing it from a betting standpoint. And we knew it was going to be this way. Max and I deemed them the rock fight team of the year. They kind of were last year and really the year before, maybe at times. But I think it's going to stay the same this year. Defense will drive this team. And, yeah, I mean, you really would like to have a Brandon Murray who would open up the offense a little bit more, I think. But you don't right now.
Get used to this. Get used to this type of game. This is what you're going to see all year from Ole Miss.
All right, Blake, I'm about to pull you out of the doldrums here. You know what's coming next, don't you?
Here's what we're all here for.
This is what your client, Dennis Gates. My goodness, those guys. I feel like we knew what Missouri basketball was going to be like last year, and I feel like we really know now. Missouri. I was texting my buddy Gabe DeArmond, who covers them. He said, "Man, I was at halftime. I was looking up records for scoring. Missouri." It slowed down a little bit in the second half, but a 101-79 win. These guys play fast. They score a lot. They give it up too. I think my biggest takeaway, Sean East stepped up, and I don't know if 21 points is a high for him at Missouri, but I bet it's close. Tamar Bates had a big role in this. The Indiana transfer. Nick Honor stepped up a little bit as a scorer. They had, 5 guys score 15 or more. Aiden Shaw gave them 9 boards. I think this is going to be a fun show to watch again at Columbia. I do worry about their ability to defend, but Blake, what can you say for your client? You're not worried about defense, are you?
Who needs defense when you're scoring 101? I mean, the team not named LSU.
This is like LMU of 1990 era here.
Listen, if you're not named LSU, who was the team that scored the highest amount of points in the SEC on night 1? That was Missouri. So we're just pushing LSU to the side here for a minute. They did put up 106. We'll get to that, and we'll explain why they put up 106. But, yeah, I mean, look, Tamar Bates, I thought, was the biggest part of this whole thing. And not just because he scored 18 points, but I think you just watch him play, and, he is a Dennis Gates guy. For how they want to play, I think he's just going to fit in. He's a tremendous fit, I think, even. And that was the whole talk, was when he transferred. It's look, he was not made for Indiana's offense. He was not made for the way Indiana played. This now is what he was made for, and I think it's pretty clear, even 1 game in. I just think it's obvious that he's going to play a huge role for them. Caleb Grill, I thought, nice game. 1 of 6 from 3, but again, we know he can make shots from outside, and I think that'll get better. Overall, I thought it was kind of one of those where to me, this looked a lot like the formula that worked last year. Like, this was kind of the same thing. And I know it's one game, but like, we did have some questions. We're like, new roster, what do they do differently? There are going to be some things they have to do differently, but one game in, I'm like, this is pretty much what they did last year. Like, this is the same kind of formula that they had a lot of success with. And remember, there's no Connor Vanover, who got suspended for 3 games, which we found out right before tip-off, because he played in the Portsmouth Invitational or whatever. So you take him out of the mix, and that's really going to, I think, be a problem in the next game against Memphis. But still, once you get him back into the mix, you said, Chris, and Aiden Shaw rebounding, I mean, they're going to be 9-10 deep in terms of how many guys they can play. And yeah, there was a lot to like here. And I mean, I think overall, you just kind of look at it and feel pretty good about, what this roster is shaping up to be, because, we didn't say a lot about Noah Carter, didn't say a lot about Nick Honor, but like, that's because you really are looking at the new guys they've added to the mix. And to see a Sean East take a step like that, score 21 points in 21 minutes. Yeah, I'm pretty high on this team, although, as I mentioned on Twitter, defense, still
Optional.
room for improvement, I think, is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I remember I was watching a little bit of this game last night, and I was like, this is the same thing. This is exactly this. Like, why did we overthink it and try to think that Dennis Gates was not going to do what Dennis Gates does? They're going to fly. They're going to cause havoc, a lot of turnovers, going to let up a lot of points, but they're going to score a lot of points. I mean, that's what they were last year, and I guess that's what they're going to be again this year. I know Tamar Bates was 3 of 3 from 3. Probably not going to always have, that much, but also, like you mentioned, Blake, I think Caleb Grill makes a few more, most games. I loved how aggressive Nick Honor was, looking for his shot, not just looking for other people. Yeah, I think Mizzou. I was saying in our ranking show, Mizzou or Vandy. Like one of these guys, they're gonna come back and bite me. It might be Mizzou. I'm liking what I'm seeing, definitely.
Max, did you notice how our man just perked up as soon as I mentioned Missouri? I mean, that's life at this channel.
Hey, I mean, listen, Ole Miss wins by 30, and I'm talking for 10 minutes over here, so I'll let him have his time.
Chris, you haven't seen anything yet because you don't know what's coming on this next game either.
Oh, no.
You have no idea what I'm about to pull out for this next game.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This would be
Give us the intro.
In the order would be Arkansas. That's the order we've decided on. 93-59 over Alcorn State. In a game where Musk cleared the bench, which is, as we know, he will shorten that bench. The parts can change as it goes. But last night was an everybody plays game. I don't know. Well, I'll tell you my take. Khalif Battle. I saw him play last year. That kid is a scoring machine. He's going to fit right in. Tramon Mark is going to give them what they need. Trayvon Brazil, they said he was healthy. He was. L. Ellis got some time. I mean, we figured they would win in a route, and they did. But, yeah, I mean, seeing Brazil healthy, seeing Battle doing what he's capable of doing, it just kind of validated what we thought they could be as much as you can validate something against Alcorn State.
Well, Arkansas fans, it's time because the season has begun, and you always start a road trip with a full tank of gas, right? You always start things off. You pull in the Must Bus, you fill the thing up. Gas prices have gone down from what I've seen, so unleaded. You can maybe get the premium
down from what
at this point for a nice amount. But you've also got to have your snacks. And so that is why I'm here to tell you that you need some corn nuts to get you through this opening part of the slate here. And don't worry, I've got my ranch corn nuts here. By the way, if you are
gross,
I don't even know who makes this stuff, but
you eat those.
Yeah, I do. I've said this before. I don't have my Zero Bar. And by the way, this is all for the originals here who remember us talking about corn nuts and Zero Bars way back when. But listen, you have reason to be excited because Tramon Mark, Max, and I we just salivated over this guy in the summer. Yep. I mean, we're just like, over here, it's embarrassing at times. But he is. I mean, that dude is good, and I think that he is exactly what this team needed. You mentioned Battle. They were combined 7 of 12 from three. I mean, what the thing we always talk about with Arkansas last year? They just didn't shoot the ball well enough. You may not do that every game, but I'll take it for game one for those two to combine 7 to 12 from the perimeter. And you talk about they played everybody. I think they literally did play everybody that was out there. They may have brought a few people in from the stands because if you look at the box score, I mean, there's everybody is on there. And so, yeah, I mean, it's the depth is there. Again, Max, I know we talked about that a couple months ago. I mean, the deepest team he's had there. It's the oldest team he's had there. It's one game, but it's really, you're building off what you saw in the Purdue exhibition too. And yeah, I mean, just having Brazile back there, what a luxury that is to have that guy back. And I loved what I saw from Arkansas here.
Blake, do you remember in the summer people saying Arkansas didn't add shooting? Because I do.
What?
Oh.
People said that?
30, 40%. Come on.
Who said that?
A lot of people.
Oh, come on. They're not paying attention.
Listen, Devo Davis, all right. 5 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, no turnovers, and a steal. I mean, just talk about a conductor or a driver of a bus, if you will say. I mean, last year he was forced into that scoring role. Showed he can do it. Still can do it, probably. But to this team to have all this talent to allow Devo Davis to just kind of, take the keys and just kind of run the show, get everybody else involved, play his defense. I mean, I was very impressed. We talked about Khalif Battle. I mean, this guy was number 2 in the American and made threes last year. You can see why. He's got a pure shot. So, yeah, Arkansas looked great. I'm in Tennessee. I think we were right on with them. They look great.
Yeah, Battle is a take over the game kind of player. I mean, right. when he wants to be. So I don't. That to me is if people say they don't have shooting, that's just not paying attention.
Chris, I just looked this up on the fly. Arkansas has already broken a record in one game, dating back to last season. You know how many threes they made in a game last season? The most they made in a game?
10.
They hit the double-digit mark once all of last season.
Yeah.
Once from 3. They went 11 of 20 against Georgia. So their 12 3-pointers in game 1 is already higher than in any game last season, period. So there you go.
Let me give you one other stat. Mekhi Mitchell played 4 minutes last night. He was a mainstay of their rotation. I mean, they played 15 guys last night. It is always a mystery of who's going to, there's always an odd man out. Like Jalen Graham was that guy last year.
Yep.
This team is so deep. It's going to be somebody some night that to me, I would not have expected. I'd have watched most of that game. I don't know if there was an injury or something that happened in there, but that did catch my eye a little bit.
I wrote down the minutes for the front court rotation: 4 for Mitchell, 9 for Fall, 7 for Lawson, 14 for Graham.
Yeah. Only so many to go around, I guess. But anyway, next up on our list, and this is one I had fun watching, and so did Alabama fans, and there were a lot of them.
Baby.
By the way, I got Jacob Pickle in the spotlight. He used to do some work at this channel. He got the coveted fan leader jacket or whatever they call that, Blake. You would know more than I do. But I think the takeaway in this is those transfers brought them some offense. Defense could be a concern, but my goodness. Grant Nelson had a box score game, but it was even better than that if you guys watched it.
Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, I mean, I was as you know, I've been low on this team, but they looked great. My one main note on this is Mark Sears is a dog. That's my note that I have. I mean, he had 3 offensive rebounds. That's most on the team. 38 free throws. That's what you expect. The same offense as last year, with just flying, green light everywhere. Morehead State looked pretty bad, I will say. So I don't know how much to take from it. But if you were questioning Alabama, this is definitely something that is like, okay, you're going to have to score 80 to beat this team because they are going to score. It just looks like it's one of those teams.
Yeah. My phrasing on Twitter I had for this game was Alabama's offense could be as smooth as a baby's bottom.
Yep.
That's the best way to put it. I mean, they, 20 points in the first 5 minutes with Grant Nelson offensively, they are just going to be able to do a lot of things. And Estrada looked good.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a lot to like here from Alabama offensively. I know, yeah, we picked on them defensively, and I don't know that there's a lot we can gather from this game necessarily. If Mark Freeman's out there from Morehead State, maybe a little bit differently in terms of how we watch them defend for 40 minutes, but I'm not going to take anything away from them in this game. We'll discuss that when it gets here and if it becomes an issue. But for now, yeah, I mean, 44% from three, got the free throw line 38 times. And yeah, like you said, Mark Sears doing his thing.
Yeah.
Stevenson, I thought, we talk about a guy who reclassifies, thought he had a good game. And yeah, so not much else to add on Alabama other than it looked like Alabama has looked over the past several seasons in game one. So,
yeah, Grant Nelson, that he's going to be must-see TV this year. Just big man who can really handle the ball, take it to the hole, score in so many different ways. I'm gonna he might be the most fun player to watch in the league just based on game one. And there's going to be a lot of fun ones. There's going to be some fun guys to watch in Lexington. The Cats put the hammer down on New Mexico State late, win that 186-46. New Mexico State, of course, had just that weird year where I think that the season got basically canceled at one point because of all the off-field stuff. But Kentucky played a lot of freshmen as we thought it would, and they looked pretty good. I think watching the game, the one thing that you might have missed if you're just looking at the box score is Reed Sheppard defensively, I thought gave them a lot. You can tell they really like him. The rest of their freshmen were good. Sheppard also gives them a dozen. Dillingham gives them 17 in just 19 minutes. Reeves plays 35 minutes. So does Mitchell. The only two of the few veterans on this team. I thought Kentucky looked pretty good on opening night, Blake, and kind of really took care of business as the night went on.
Yeah, I mean, it's, we're used to Kentucky freshmen leading them, over the years, but like that was not as much the case over the past several years because of, adding transfers and such. But like, yeah, I mean, for the four freshmen to lead you in scoring to start things off and to be a big reason why they just completely ran away in that game. I mean, remember, that's kind of a close game for a little while there. I mean, halftime? I don't remember what it was, but
it was a little
they
close.
just took it to them. Yeah, I mean, they just took it to them after that. And I think they're all a little bit different in terms of like what they can do. And you mentioned like the guy I have at the top of my list is Reed Sheppard. I'm like, hey, this guy, Cal's not gonna be able to take him off the floor.
Yeah.
And he's gonna play a lot. Like he really is. And I think he's just gonna he brings something that some of the other guys don't bring. And not that they can, it's just their skill sets are all different. And that's a good thing because I think they all connect really well. Look, they shot 9 of 29 from three. That needs to get better. It will probably. Still with Kentucky, it's kind of the way I put it. They just won by 40 and ran away from a team I know that basically rebuilding their entire roster and program at this point based on how last year ended. But you get Bradshaw back, get Onyenso back, get Big Z back. I mean, if those guys join this rotation with what I saw last night from this team, they're going to be hard to beat because, those are all three rotation guys. And so, yeah, I mean, they could be the complete package if they can make a few more threes, which again, I'm not going to take one game and just say, oh, they're going to be a bad shooting team. But yeah, I really was impressed, especially second half. I thought there's a lot of things you could like about this team.
Blake, we said Reed Sheppard's better than you think he is. We said it.
Yep.
And I remember actually the commentator with like 2 minutes left, he said, I think Reed Sheppard's been the best player on both sides of the ball for Kentucky today. And I think, that's debatable. A lot of, there's a few other freshmen that had great games, but man, just, double stamp of approval there for Reed Sheppard. And then Mitchell and Reeves, 35 minutes each. I'm glad you mentioned that, Chris, because against some of these better non-conference teams, that's going to be something to keep an eye out for. Just kind of how are the legs of these older guys, because they're gonna be needing 35 plus every game for these guys while the injuries are still out. But yeah, they look great second half.
Okay, next one up, LSU 106, Mississippi Valley State 60. Blake, I know you're about to rain on my parade here, but I just want to mention this, okay, because I kind of look at what guys do coming in. And Will Baker at Nevada, I don't know that he was one of the most 4 or 5 discussed transfers in this league. But, boy, when this kid was on the floor last year at Nevada, was he ever productive? He averaged last year almost 23 points and 9 boards a game or over per 70 possessions. True shooting percentage is 65%. So he scored a lot. He rebounded a lot. And he was super efficient in terms of his scoring. Last night, he gets 29 for LSU, which I think was a game high for any player last night. But Blake, as you're about to point out, this might have been the worst team in Division I that they played. So who knows what to take from it.
Yeah, I'm not knocking Will Baker. I mean, anytime you score 29 points in 19 minutes, that's good. You deserve a pat on the back for that. And you're efficient 91% from the floor. You'll take that too. But yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking LSU here either, but it's like, keep in mind, this was a team that was just a chore offensively last year. But look, I mean, 106 points, you'll take that. I mean, I don't care who you're playing for a team that, again, that's kind of a relief to be like, all right, we got a lot of new faces, but pretty much, I mean, almost the whole team feels like it's new. But not everybody, I guess. There's some guys there that were back. But yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to just completely read into just yet with LSU. Although, again, I'm going to applaud a 46-point win because you should be applauded for that. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I think Max pointed out, it was just like, you look at Mississippi Valley State and it's just, you can probably only take so much away. But look, I said I thought LSU, could be sneaky in terms of, maybe they get out of that bottom part of the league. Obviously, they finished last year, but Jordan Wright, everybody knows I'm high on him. I think he's going to add a lot to this team. Damian Collins, also someone I talked about a lot when he was in Kentucky. I think you're seeing some things from him, and then it's just seeing how everybody else just kind of. I mean, look, I'm going to say it, and if they just had Jalen Cook, I mean, man, I'd be a lot more excited, but they don't have him right now. And unless they get the appeal, they're not going to have him. But that's where I don't know how the guard play necessarily pans out. But yeah, Will Baker, you'll take that as a start with those kind of numbers. So
if Jalen Cook played, they might have scored 175. I mean,
I'd say 200 or more.
Mississippi Valley State. I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna take too much from it, but like Blake said, I mean, you saw what you wanted to see from a team that did not have the nicest offense last year. I mean, they almost doubled up the spread. So I mean, hey, you'll take it, but there's not much I can take from it with how horrible Mississippi Valley State looked.
All right, last one.
Hold
of the
on
night.
a second, guys.
Oh,
I got one more thing, Chris. Hold on.
Oh,
now keep in mind, LSU scored 132 in the exhibition game, and they scored 106 here against Mississippi Valley State. So if you average the two together, they're currently averaging 119 per contest. So I'm not saying,
Stop.
Again, I don't want to act like we're not. No, I'm not. I'm not going to stop. No. I'm just telling you they're averaging 119 right now through 2 games. So that's all I'm saying. They play Nichols next. They got Dayton. Could have St. John's coming up after that. So we'll see if that continues. But no, it's just, look, we say that about a lot of these games. It's just, it really is. We're excited because there's games being played, but we try not to overreact to everything.
Yeah.
But I think LSU, listen, Matt McMahon, they had a tough year last year. Give that man some props. They'll take a 46-point win to start the season.
I mean, it was an offensive night in the league. All but 2 teams scored 80 points last night, guys.
Yeah.
And that's Georgia and Ole Miss, which, my goodness, that you start looking at these other scores, that 69-59 thing that Ole Miss did looks a little rough by comparison here. But anyway. Yeah. All right, the nightcap, and I didn't see any of this one. Florida beats Loyola of Maryland 93-73. Riley Kugel continued that end-of-year streak that he was on. He leads them with 23. They're two bigs that they got in the portal. Hanlogden, I guess is how you pronounce it, and Tyrese Samuel both gave them 15 and 6 rebounds for one and 8 for the other. Walter Clayton Jr., I guess I would have expected maybe a little more scoring from him. He got 9 last night, but did give him 5 assists and 3 steals. So pretty good night for the front court, and Riley Kugel having a good game, Max. I guess something that we figured would happen, and there was.
Hey, Kugel had 23 and didn't make a 3-point shot. So I expect him to have quite the scoring year. I mean, Kugel, Richard, and Clayton combined for only 1 3, and they put up 90 or 80. Like, come on, this offense is going to be amazing. Condon, how about Condon, Blake?
Yeah,
he kind of slipped through the cracks there. Condon looked good.
He did. I mean, that front court, again, it's one game, but
How do you think about your boy Samuel?
I mean, come on, folks. Please, let's not kid ourselves here. This guy is an SEC. He's made for the SEC. I said that last night as was a tweet I put out. I was like, Tramon Mark, Tyrese Samuel, those two guys were birthed for the SEC. Like that was the deal. So yeah, I really like. I mean, look, we talked about it, Max. Guy coming over from the Big East, used to the physicality, like a physical specimen. And I just he's going to be the type of guy I think that will thrive in the SEC. And I think that's where we were having questions about Hanlogden and all that. And, maybe you still kind of figure out who's going to be the guy that kind of emerges. I still think it's Samuel kind of from that group. But yes, like for Hanlogden, Samuel, Condon to all do what they did last night, even though it's, one game and all that. Like, okay, we're trying to be, find the positives with every team. And that's something definitely that's there because the front court depth is something that we didn't know about without EJ Jarvis. So, yeah, I mean, I liked a lot of what I saw from Florida in that game. So,
all right, that's it for last night's games. Tonight,
hold on, Chris. You are just you're gonna upset some fans in College Station because
my goodness! This is the reason I asked.
They're the team you picked to win the league, and you don't even want to talk about them. Oh my!
How did this happen?
Sorry, Texas A&M fans. I mean, Max is the one that picked you, 14th in the league. And Chris over here picking them first, and we don't even talk about them. So
I'll be happy to talk about them as soon as I can find the box score.
All right, folks. Texas A&M 78, Texas A&M-Commerce 46. I'm just kidding, by the way, A&M fans. Max didn't pick you 14th. Don't take it out on him.
Yeah.
Hayden Heffner, 19 points.
How
about that? Leading the way with 19. And I mean, Wade Taylor did the usual Wade Taylor stuff. I mean, he's, preseason SEC player of the year for a reason. I mean, the way I looked at this, Max, this was still, defensively, look, I didn't watch the entire game, but they're going to defend. We know that everybody on the floor is going to defend. And, I thought this was about what you expected from Texas A&M. There wasn't a lot to read into here. He played a lot of guys. Jace Carter, I thought, had a nice debut, played 19 minutes, 8 points, 3 assists, a couple rebounds. We kind of talked about it. I think it'd be nice to see Julius Marble out there. We don't know the situation going on there, but I mean, not a lot to take away from this one for me. So,
no, yeah, I mean, it's what you would expect against Commerce. Heffner, my main takeaway is just Heffner looked good. We were wondering who's going to fill in for Dexter Dennis, and if Heffner can hold his end on defense there, and he's gonna space the floor and make a few shots. So I mean, I wasn't really expecting what I saw from Heffner. He had a solid game.
Yeah, note to self: click on the full schedule portion on the SEC's website next time. That's how I missed you guys, Aggies. I got nothing to add. I didn't get to watch, but I don't think, in fact, I maybe more than a minute or two of this one. I mean, they took care of business. This is a team last year that started slowly and hit its stride in SEC play. They didn't get much out of Henry Coleman last night. Yeah, I don't have much to add here. But we do have more basketball tonight, gentlemen. Vanderbilt kicks off against Presbyterian tonight, in which to be a blowout. But the bigger game, Auburn-Baylor. Thoughts on what we'll see tonight, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I think with Georgia, you're playing, which Baylor's a better team than Oregon, but it's always an interesting test when you have this as a game one, especially Baylor. Like Baylor's just they're a chore to play against. I mean, that's just what you expect with Scott Drew's teams, and so. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, look, I think just from looking at it from an Auburn standpoint, I mean, it's kind of one of the things we talked about with other teams is the 3-point shooting. How does it improve? They shot 31.5% last year. I want to see what the new guards specifically do, whether it's Aiden Holloway, whether it's Denver Jones. I want to see what the rotation looks like backcourt wise against a team like Baylor, not just, what we see, from reports and summer or anything like against a Baylor. What does it look like? And so, because that's a tough game to start off with, right?
Yeah.
If you're added, joining the mix on this Auburn roster, yeah, it's tough. And so, front court wise, we pretty much know what to expect. We both, Max and I picked Janai Broome as our SEC Player of the Year, and so he's going to have a huge game, of course, in every area. Just depending, Baylor's a team. What do they do traditionally? They crash the boards. Great offensive rebounding. So all those things, yeah. So I'm curious. Chad Baker-Mazar, all those new guys for Auburn. Game one. Hey, congratulations. You signed with the Auburn Tigers. Your reward is game one against the Baylor Bears, who are just so hard to play against. And so, yeah, it'd be interesting.
Who's your pick?
Well, as I noted in Max's Twitter pick'em thread in the DMs, I said at this point I'm going to pick Auburn to cover in every game they play this season. So I guess I have to pick them to cover here as 2.5-point underdogs against Baylor. Man, that's the best I can give you. I can't give you a game.
Oh, chicken!
That's the best I can give you.
Chicken.
Auburn plus 2.5. That's all I got for you right now. I'll make my decision for game time. You can follow me on Twitter /X at @TheBlakeLow.
I'll take it. Yeah, most excited game of the night for me, and for most people, I would assume. But I think it's going to be a backcourt of Baylor that drives their offense against the front court of Auburn that drives theirs. I think it's going to be a good matchup to see who can better implement their game plan. Bruce Pearl did say that he's worried about this backcourt defense, and that is not a good worry to have opening up your season against Baylor. So that makes me a little bit worried. But also, I think that there's a clear edge with Auburn in the front court. I just think Janai Broome and Cardwell are a bit better than Ojowana and JTT. So I think it's a good line. I think it's going to be a close game. If either team runs away with it, I think it's pretty worrisome for the other team. But I'm going to go with Auburn also, but it's not a high confidence. I think this is going to be a really solid game with a lot of talented offensive players. I'm excited.
Yeah, I think not many teams, you made a good point. Not a lot of teams have got the experience that Auburn's got in the front court with Jalen Williams and Broome and Dylan Cardwell. Seems like those guys have been there forever. So that's something to watch. I think the big thing, the debut of Aiden Holloway, who is going to be one of the better freshmen in the league, maybe in the country. I think a lot of how he does will determine how good a year it is for Auburn this year. So, gentlemen, parting thoughts as we wrap up the show today. Blake, you first.
Check out everything we got on the channel. As always, we say we're not going to let these things go long, and then 45 minutes later, here we are. But that's what you can expect from our SEC basketball stuff, as you guys know, over the years. So check it all out. Hit subscribe. Check out our friends at Bet Online. Everything else, we'll have probably some quick thoughts on the 2 games tomorrow. And so subscribe. By the way, check out the description. We've got our links in there to Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, podcasts. So find us everywhere and follow us everywhere. That's our goal. So we appreciate you guys.
Real quick, just one last thought for me. Presbyterian has lost 18 straight games and they lost their 2 leading scorers. I think Vandy covers big time tonight. I like Vandy. That's all I wanted to say. I really like Vandy tonight.
Yeah, those are the 2 games left tonight. On Wednesday, we get Arizona State, Mississippi State, and then a big slate of games on Friday, including some decent matchups. Florida, Virginia
Good ones
for
on
one.
Friday.
So yeah, and then I think there's a few more than that. Tennessee, Wisconsin, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, perhaps. Yeah. So Wake, Georgia, another one. Georgia's taking on some
Virginia, Florida
teams here early. Yeah, absolutely. A&M, Ohio State. So yeah, Friday is the game you want to watch to get your fill before the football slate on Saturday. You know what? We're here to cover all of it: basketball, football, and baseball when it gets here. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit those like buttons. Check out our podcast now. We've done most of our work on YouTube, but you can get this as an audio-only podcast at Apple Podcasts and wherever you get most of yours. So if that is how you prefer your content delivery, you can get most of our stuff there now too. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Thank you for watching Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.